He not only deals with numismatics, but also historical Americana of our country and probably other countries as well. I would like to ask, and please follow this one rule tonight. Hold your comments and questions to the very end, okay? And that includes Gene Barry, and that includes Mark Clarkson, and that includes Mike Chiarini, and who's the other culprit?
Barry said you.
Yeah, so please, hold it to the very end. Okay. Tonight, we're going to cover a broad topic on the Saddle Ridge Gold Hoard that was discovered by a dog, I think, initially, and also the ability to get photo. So Don, welcome. It's yours.
Thank you. First, I want to thank Bob and Larry for this incredible turnout. Do you get this every?
Well, so tonight we have, I think if I counted right, 52 members, and the all-time high since I've been president was 51. So pretty good turnout tonight. We average between about, I'd say average about 40, 45 of them.
I think you paid a bigger meeting than
Yeah. Well, we have that discussion all the time, and at some point, we actually have a list of places we can go to, and when we do outgrow it, that's but we've had some good fortune in this meeting, place is free.
Yeah, and it's safe.
Price is right.
And a lot of people feel safe here, and so we don't get to
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I say ahead of time, thank you so much for taking out your busy schedule to come here and talk to our club.
This is what I love to do. So even though there was a couple of traffic incidents on the way, not mine, but I'm glad to be here. Tremendous turnout. I'm thrilled. And it bodes well for the hobby and for our passion. So when Bob suggested that I come here and give a talk, I said, sure, absolutely. And you said Bob wanted me to talk a little bit about Saddle Ridge and the ability to get photo. That's exactly what I'm going to do. However, I'm going to take a little different perspective than what I've done in the past. It's the first time I've ever talked from this perspective. I'm going to give you a little bit behind the scenes story about how these stories actually got from the ground to market. Because a lot of people might think, and most of you have heard the story, you know, hey, there's a couple and they're rumored to be golden retriever, but we can't say exactly what it was. The dog, we're out walking in their backyard in here in Northern California, and they discovered a can. There was something shiny in a tree. We called them John and Mary. That's not their real name. John took a stick, excavated it, found the can. It was very heavy. He thought it was full of old paint. But of course now we know it wasn't. It was US $20 gold pieces. He went back. They went back with a metal detector. They came back, found 7 more cans. 1,429 $20 gold pieces. Now, a lot of people think, well, they just brought it to Kagin's. Kagin's marketed, they used Amazon and sold them all. Well, folks, there was about a year in between that, and it's a lot of things happened. And we really never have told this story before. So you're the first people to hear this, and yeah, you can hold your questions, but I'm happy to answer them later. Some of these things are proprietary because one of the things that really hasn't been revealed too much when I called them and interviewed John and Mary and gave them their names, I asked them, what was their first reaction when they found this gold? Did they think they found a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow? And actually, he said, no, we feared for our lives. They were thinking that somebody's going to appear on a horse, and saddle and gun, looking for his treasure. And that's one of the reasons they absolutely want to remain anonymous. And one of their ideas, they were first thought that they would take one coin at a time, maybe, and put it in an auction and sell it that way. But when they did their due diligence and they came to us, we convinced them They really need to tell the story, and we promise to keep their anonymity. And today, nobody knows who they are, where they found it. All we have revealed is Northern California, and I gave them the name John and Mary. But it was interesting that they thought, you know, that's what they're going to do. And also interesting, John saw all of that. The fact is, when they took the coins, all 1,429, out of the ground, they didn't look like the coins that you might have seen in the South. This is what it looked like. That's one of the original cans that's now on display at the Smithsonian Institution. Well, of course, there were 7 more cans. But this, that was $27,980 base value. Now, if you melted it, it was almost $2 million. And somebody they talked to before offered him a little bit over melt. And then when we were done marketing a year later, it was about $10 million. So it was about how do you create that story. We convinced them they needed to tell this story, and there are actually 2 stories here. There's one story about how these coins got made in the first place. And of course, that started with the gold rush. We know, most of us know the story of John Marshall, right? And James Marshall, and the discovery of gold up near where? Sutter's Mill, right? And that story of the prospectors who came overland, mined the gold, and we wouldn't have those Saddle Ridge coins if it wasn't for all that happened out here in 1848 and 9, and of course that's why we call our football team what? 49. At least what used to be our football team. So this is where eventually we had a lot of private gold coins that were struck by individual companies. You know any of those? Ever heard of any? I can recommend a very good book about it. Yeah. It's out of print right now, but if you see me later, I think I can probably get you a copy. But that's not the story tonight. The story tonight is about these coins, which 6 years, took us 6 years, talk about politics, to glacially slow. Well, 6 years after the discovery of gold, they finally established a mint in San Francisco. This is the second mint, and it was in the second mint that they made these coins, all 1,429. Now this is what the coins look like. Okay, so now we have a story to go with the coins, but this is what the coins look like. John originally thought, oh, that's pretty ugly. I'll put some soap and water, and I'll put some detergent, and I'll make some of these fine. And that's why we have some no-grade coins that we sold for $2,750. That was the cheapest coin when we got them, because he ruined the coin because he didn't use a professional to restore it. Instead, he cleaned it. That's a bad word in our numismatic jargon. We don't clean coins, we professionally restore them. That means we don't move the metal, we don't mess with any of the metal of the coin, we don't try to doctor it, but we can remove, there are ways that you can remove the detritus and even the rust on the coins. Now, these coins were probably taken, we don't know for sure the background story, but they probably were, the guy didn't trust the banks, what a concept, and he went to the bank and he took the coins and he buried them in these cans from time to time, we think over 15 years because of the array of dates in the various cans. But they were gorgeous coins in mint state, as we call it, when he put them in there, and this was what happened over the ensuing 120 years. So we professionally restored each and every coin. Sometimes it took 2 times, 3 times to get them from that look to this look. Yes?
Oh, I just want to make a comment on the last question. But gold is one of the few metals in the world that it does not tarnish. There is a trace of copper in them, which could cause some of that, but that's why these are so easy to restore. If those were copper coins or whatever, forget it. And you ground that long, they would have been history.
Well, they have, is this a pure gold?
No,
No,
What?
90%.
What?
because nothing can be 100% metal.
Oh, well, maybe, yes, okay, well, unless they can actually make 100%. But what were these?
90%.
900. Trying to get the young people.
Yeah.
It's the future of our hobby.
Right.
But anyway, yes, that's right. So they're 90% because 10% we put copper, and why do we just put copper in our gold coins? Because gold is so soft or malleable that if we don't, they wouldn't have lasted. Anyway, so that's what, this happens to be a pretty rare piece. Once we got them restored, then we had to get them graded. So there's a couple of independent grading firms that are credible and guarantee their grades. One of us was PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service. We sent all the coins there. Of course, there was all this secrecy involved, of course, and when they got done grading all the coins, 14 of them were the finest known for the date, including this coin. And here's a 66 plus. Now, we have never taken any of these to be CAC, which is another grading firm that looks at these independent grades and say, oh yeah, they're pretty good for the grade, because almost everybody says these are very good for the grade. PCGS was very conservative. A number of the coins were purchased by dealers eventually. We know that they were broken out and put into higher holders and other holders, but whatever, that's another different story. But now we have them graded, so now they're worth more. How do you sell them? Hey, if you have 200 of the same coin in the same date, and you're trying to get a premium because they're from Saddle Ridge, even so, okay, you can tell the story, but after a few or maybe a dozen people get their coin, in an auction, if you one after another, if another is sold in an auction, which is the normal way many of these are sold, where's the market? So I knew somebody who was selling his pet products through a company called Amazon. So we went up to Seattle and I pitched this idea. They did not have a platform for selling coins, and we convinced them, and Amazon spent 6 months developing a coin trading platform, which after our launch, some 200 and some dealers actually got on and been selling on their site. But this is a new concept to them. We were thinking outside the box. How do you sell this? This is the thinking process, and that's what this talk tonight is about. How do you tell that story? And then how do you market it? And how do you get lots of people interested? 200 million eyes, who never heard of coins or whatever. I wanted to bring our industry, our passion to the attention, and of course it was worldwide. The marketing then, I got through the AP, I knew somebody at the Chronicle. I said, here's the story, put it on hold until we're ready. It took the young couple, had to convince them, had to convince their lawyers, had to do a lot of due diligence. Amazon had to make sure that Kagan's was not, fly by night, and that they're gonna have egg in their face. I mean, all these different issues that you had to deal with. And as many of you know, I ended up being interviewed for 8 straight days. I asked them not to film where I live in Tiburon, and my offices have never been photographed. I don't even have an address that is published. Some of you know it, of course, because you've been there, but I didn't want that. I wanted that part of my anonymity, although I wasn't very anonymous, because this was about marketing, right? So now, You have every major network worldwide. I had 3 interviews in Germany, 3 interviews from Australia, Great Britain. By the end of the 8th day, the metrics were, I understand, that over 1.65 million websites had this story worldwide. A record, and certainly a record in numismatics. So now it's how do you price the coins? So that was, we knew that the cheapest items, the no grades in particular, we wanted, and we talked to the owners, we wanted as many people as possible to be able to participate worldwide. We figured, you know, $2,500 was a good price point for a lot of people to own this coin. That was a premium about 70 or 80% over melt. The higher grade coins, no premium over melt, because we knew that mostly those are going to go to collectors. The tough pricing was the ones in the middle. And the fact that we still have 10% or so of the coins left, a few of them I brought here, I will pass around during the break. We still have those. And the market's gone down for generics of that date. So, you know, we got it about 90% right. So, at any rate, you can't get something 100%, right? At any rate, so now it was a matter of trying to do it right and get it. Then you have to package it. So it isn't just selling the coin. What are we selling? The story, right? Why they're with premium. So all first come, first serve. If you don't have this during the break, these are the stories of the Saddle Ridge coins that I wrote about those 2 stories, the coins and the history. This is the box, and we put the coin in here. Here's the story. We worked a deal with several partners, with one of which is the American Numismatic Association. We offered a free membership to everyone who bought a Saddle Ridge coin. We offered a month or 6 month subscription, I think, to Coin World free. I mean, we're trying again to get new people into the industry. So, and then we launched the sale of this. I was, at the time, I was a member of the board of the old San Francisco Mint, the same one that was in the picture earlier. And what we've been trying to do is establish a mint museum there. I've been working on that since '94, so a few years. We will get it done one of these days. Anybody buy a commemorative coin, the commemorative coin that we got from Congress? Imagine that today, 2/3 of Congress getting a coin commemorative bill passed, but Feinstein and Boxer was instrumental, and Pelosi were all instrumental in that. And we got raised $4.5 million towards the establishment of a mint museum, which someday will tell the story of numismatics, and with an emphasis on the gold rush. But we started to launch at the Mint. I arranged to have an auction at the Mint of 1 coin, the first coin that was found by them. I think it brought $10,000, and it all went to the old Mint as a donation. So the very first Saddle Ridge coin was a donation to the Mint. And so again, and then right after that, we went live on Amazon and live on the Kagin website. We sold 50% of the coins within 24 hours. Wow. So it's about marketing, and that's a little bit of what happened behind the scenes. And about a year later, a gentleman comes to my office with this image, this tintype. Billy the Kid. Okay, cool, interesting photograph. I'm a coin dealer. What about this? Well, I said, I really was impressed with your marketing, and I've taken this to the top people in the field of photography and in the West, and they don't, nobody wants to say that it's real. There's some people that say just because I paid $10 for this and a couple other pieces at a Fresno coin shop, or actually not a shop, it was just an antique store that's no longer around, that it can't, and it doesn't have a pedigree, that it can't possibly be real, and there's only one Billy the Kid tintype, which Mr. Koch paid $2.3 million for a few years earlier. So he says, I want you to sell it. Okay, now how do I go about doing that? You know, I'm not an expert. I said, you know, it's the basic question, and I was asked this in an interview later when we were handling this, when we went live. I said, you know, it's just the same basic question you ask about everything. Who, what, when, where, why, how. We learned that in school, right? Journalism 101, right? Okay. Who are those people on the picture? What are they doing? When did this happen? I mean, if we can answer where, especially where, we'll get to that in a minute, why they're there and how this was taken and how did this happen, we might be able to authenticate, get this thing authenticated. We just need to find, I'm going to go back, well, I'll go back, and because this is the basic picture. I'll go over here for those people who can't see. So I told them, look, you need to ask the question, you need to get those answers from experts. You need to find them and then bring it back to us, and we'll do our further due diligence, what they call due diligence, which is background checks.
He's still in there.
So he, in the ensuing few months, met up with a videographer and convinced the videographer, absolutely convinced, he was a historian, yes, I think it's real, let's find the right people to ask. And they did. And then they, first let's get it funded. So they went to History Channel and they went to National Geographic and I think one other, and National Geographic said, we'd love to sponsor this. They paid over $1 million just to be able to record him going to person, to expert, to get them to help them authenticate those and answer those very questions, right? How many people actually saw the National Geographic show? Right? Okay, not a lot, because National Geographic is not History Channel, they don't get a lot. But Kevin Costner also was a producer. He believed in it, he believed in the idea, and of course he was the commentator for the program when it came out. They found somebody who said, absolutely, this is authentic in terms of the tintype. It was from the date. They found somebody to identify, some experts to identify the trees, even though they don't have leaves on it. Some of the naysayers were saying, oh, these are California oaks. Well, they aren't. They're white oaks, and there's actually a town near where this is taken called White Oak in Arizona, or New Mexico. So these were the various questions, and so what I did is he went to the various experts to talk about somebody that had worked for the NSA and did 3D facial recognition and he got 80% facial recognition for 3 of these people. This is Billy the Kid on the left. And then there's people, well, they're out playing croquet. What croquet during, in the Wild West? Well, yeah, actually, this building was owned by Billy the Kid's mentor, a man who was from England, and where croquet was all the rage in 1878. So, yeah, there's the answer to why they're out playing. Well, what are all these people doing? They couldn't possibly. Well, we found a diary from Sally Chisholm who's in this picture, who talks about Billy the Kid and the Regulators, his gang, getting together in that period of time for probably a wedding of these people. So we found why, how it was taken, all the experts, but the biggest question was what? Where? Right. Well, through a series of events, they finally felt that they found the place. Well, they brought all this back to me so a year later. Said, well, there's some we got statements from all the experts. They said many of them were ambiguous, vague wording. We got them to be absolutely precise. That's part of our due diligence, making sure. And then I had reached out to all the naysayers, many of whom I knew, and answered their questions and dialed down to at the point where there were no more questions that had speculations of why maybe this didn't take, maybe this isn't authentic. Well, 3D facial recognition can't really tell you anything. Well, NSA says differently, and National Crime Scenes Bureau says differently, but there was nothing behind to prove us wrong. There's absolutely nothing to prove that this is not genuine. And there's a lot to show that it is. The one thing that really made it right for us, for Kagins, to be able to put our 80-some years of reputation on the line and offer it for sale was finding the exact place out in the middle of nowhere in New Mexico, where this Lincoln County, where I sent my man, David McCarthy, the same guy who actually did the restoration of the coins, down with he was an amateur photographer, and he went down there, and we actually went twice to do a matchup of the one slide I couldn't get before I got here, couldn't find, was the overlay of this onto present day building. There was a schoolhouse there before, but we did an overlay and it absolutely lines up. Everything lines up. So that was the final reason why we got behind and said, yeah, it's authentic. Then you had other issues. We had to get it. In order to have insurance, you have to have an appraisal, and we found the right guy to do appraisal. Somebody here in the Bay Area recently died. We've written many, many books on guns of the old West, etc. But we answer those questions. Those are the kind of questions you need to ask when you're looking at a coin or anything else to do the authentication and to believe in it. So that's really the kind of some of the inside story, and I want to leave a little bit of time for questions and answers. But now, Bob said the other thing you could talk about is the fact that you're running for vice president of the American Numismatic Association. Well, yeah, I've been in numismatics, basically I was born into it. My father was a professional since 1933, passed away in 2005, but I've been in the business for 45 years as a professional, etc. But it's been a good business for me, and I believe one should give back to, and that's very satisfying for me, and that's why I love seeing all you people here. This has been my avocation. Like some of you might know, I do have a BA and a PhD in numismatics. Also, the first, thinking outside the box. How can I satisfy my interest and bring the scholarship of numismatic up? And that's for a different time and place. But I'm running. So some people say, well, why do you need to talk about it? Because there's nobody running against you. Well, actually, I am. There are people who oppose new ideas, and that's really what I'm running for, not really against. And partly why I have a program where I give out my 2 cents, and these are my 2 cents, and I hopefully have enough of them for any of you who don't have one. Mr. Trini's not going to take another one because he probably has 3 already.
So are you buying our vote?
You know, the interesting that they don't reveal, if you run unopposed, they don't reveal how many people.
Yeah.
My wife says, she says that she'll vote for me, so. But I do, what I'm trying to do is get your 2 cents. So this is great, Robert, thank you again for having me here to share kind of the way I think, the way we think, to tell the story. I need your 2 cents. So anyone taking a 2 cents is obligating themselves to give me their 2 cents on how A&A can be better. How many here are not members of A&A? Okay. Well, we have a new promotion coming up, but I'll tell you what, anybody here who's not a member, who wants to be a member, I will sponsor a virtual membership for this, anybody who's a member of the Coin Club in good standing, I will sponsor you in a virtual membership that you get it online, but I really encourage you to get a full membership because you get the magazine, and I'm still old school enough, and most of the people here, I think, are still some old school old guys like me who like actually reading from a piece of paper or magazine. But at any rate, I want to encourage you to take the 2 cent piece, give me your feedback, because that's how we get new ideas. And the board that I've been on, and I'm on right now, and I've been on for 6 years, the most proactive board ever, even on my father's years when he was on the board. This board really listens to new ideas, and I take every one of your ideas and give and share them with the board, and that's how we progress and learn and answer and your needs and make A&A better for all of us. So with that, thank you very much. I have these applications to A&A, the few of you who aren't, you fill them out, I will sponsor you, or you can get the full membership. I have a couple catalogs here, our recent, who got a catalog? Yeah, anybody? Okay, so this is from our recent auction, A&A auction, and another story of the backstory of the innovation and the new things that's never been done before. If you have a minute. Again, I'm addressing everybody over 13 here, no, over 50 here. These days, the last time I did an auction was 28 years ago. I held an auction and created, when an opportunity came along, and I won't bore you with how that came up, and I took advantage of it and had this auction. I'll just tell you one aspect of how do you differentiate, and in business, how do you differentiate yourself from the competition, especially when your competition is, 50 times bigger than you are. And as a numismatist, one of the reasons I like them is pretty. They're cool. They're neat. It's art in metallic form, right? It's not just the history. But these days and age, so many people, when they start to register for our auction, I said, do you have a catalog? No, I bid online, and I don't need a catalog, and it's just cluttered, right? Wow, that's because all these other guys are doing catalogs that look basically the same every time. And unless they had a number on it, you can't tell it's different from the last one. So I thought maybe we go back to the old time when people really look forward to getting the actual catalog, and we do something innovative. I came up with the idea of a cover design competition, an outrageous $5,000, but I think I got probably more than $5,000 worth of marketing out of it, and we came up with a design, and I'm going to announce to you all, I just announced about a week ago to the media, you probably haven't seen it, every Kagin catalog from now on, excuse me for the commercial, but every Kagin catalog is going to be a new artist, a different artist, an artistic design, so that it's a piece of art. So we go back to collecting and reading and having something tangible rather than just the internet. So, because coins, I mean, so visceral, so important. So, sorry about that. So, anyway, those are up here for you to take a look at. And I'll tell you what, when we reconvene, as you're talking, I think most people here can multitask. I'll pass around some Saddle Ridge coins, and you can all see, if you haven't seen them. And then we'll have them at the show tomorrow in Santa Clara.
Thank you, Don.
again.
There, you stay right there. You in the audience, you may or may not know that Don Kagin is a current member of the ANA Board of Governors. He is running for Vice President, as he mentioned, and he certainly has the vast majority of our vote, I'm sure. This competition for the cover, this is the first place winner, and the back cover was the second place winner. I entered this competition. I'm a graphic artist. I have a sign business. I don't hold it against Don that I did not win. I don't even hold it against him that I didn't even come third. I'll enter again.
And I don't hold it against Bob, who said it was we, not me.
Yeah.
Let's give him a participation prize, one of those 2-cent coins.
Hey, Bob, practice.
I'm going to take charge of the question and answers, otherwise we'll be here well past 9. We'll take 6 or 7 questions, all right? First was Linda. I saw your hand first.
Yes, I would like to know how Don and Mary chose Kagin to help them with their coins.
They had a lawyer friend of theirs do his due diligence. He called the I believe he called the American Numismatic Association. He looked up, he Googled 2 or 3 different dealers. He went to 2 or 3 different dealers, and then decided that Kagin's had the best idea.
Manuel?
What kind of taxes do they have to pay on something?
You know, they didn't pay any other taxes than normally, which is 40-some% when you figure, you know, they pay the cap. From the time they got it to the time they sold it over a year. So they paid the capital gains tax. They pay their normal taxes to the feds and to the state. That's it.
We have Mr. Brody there next.
How many coins did he conserve?
About 200 or so.
Oh, no. 200 no grades?
Yeah, I think they're about that. I mean, you can see in the booklet, we have a population total of all the grades of all the coins and all the dates. So
Hey Jeff, you probably got tired after 200. 27,000 is a lot of coins.
Okay, we have Mr. Trainee next, and then after that I'll take 3 more, and that'll be it.
Do you still have the toilet token that your father displayed at the A&A? He made a big thing about that. He was one of his finest pieces. You still have it. When he got the firm survey, he got up and talked about that toilet token.
I think my sister has it.
Okay, that's all I want.
Hey, Don, I have one quick question before Bob picks another person. What's the value of this second photo you found, or approximate, or do we know yet?
So I valued it. So the owner and I had a little disagreement on that, and I thought it was worth more than the single one that brought 2.3 million. Okay, so I think that's a minimum price for that. I mean, that's people. So and I figure it's probably 3.5 million. He wanted more, and he's still in love with it. And he still owns it. In case that's a question, he didn't want to sell it.
Mike Tarini, did you ask your question?
Yes, I did.
Okay, who else here? David?
Yeah, I want to talk about the Strange Inheritance program last night. I don't know whether you saw it or not, but they had a picture of Jesse James and Bob Ford, and I think it was a tin type, and Bob Ford shot Jesse James, and I think this is the only one there was, and nobody believed this thing was real. So they had somebody with the government down in Texas did a lot of forensic analysis on it, and it was determined that it was a real photograph of Jesse James and Bob Ford, and I think it was the only one. And so they finally, this thing was put up in auction by a company in Texas, and this particular photo sold for $35,000. They have no idea how much it was
So,
gonna
so
sell.
that
for.
same show, wait, real quick, that same show had a program on the 1974 aluminum cent. Did any of you see that?
Yeah.
The whole story
Yeah,
behind
I
that
think
was
I saw
profiled on that show.
Oh, okay, wait, we're gonna take two more questions, guys. One here, one of our newer members.
Yeah, I appreciate
Well, he didn't
your-
ask me a question, you can take another.
Okay,
I
wait.
appreciate your comments about the original condition of those coins that were found. Do you recall about what percentage of the coins had to undergo some sort of restoration?
Every one of them.
Every single one of
Yeah,
them?
we did every one of them, some of them multiple times.
Okay.
And that's
Wow.
David McCarthy works on mine.
Excellent.
Okay, we're running short, guys. I wish you could be here till 10 o'clock. We can't. I'm gonna ask the last question. And this has some significance in terms of identifying Billy the Kid. Don, I heard something about the croquet stick, the length of its, the measure of its length.
Yes.
And Billy the Kid's, or,
Height.
yeah, Billy the Kid's height.
Yes.
How did that work out?
Exactly correct. I mean, it showed that if you looked at what croquet mallets, the height of the croquet to what we know Billy the Kid's height was, it turns out that everything is spot on.
Okay. All right. And that's it, thank you.
So wait a minute, on the break, if you stick around, are you gonna be
Yeah,
here,
yeah.
Don?
Yeah, I'm here, you can ask me
You
questions.
can always ask questions on the break,
Yeah.
too.
Okay, we're not done yet, guys.
50/50, or do you want me?
Maria has a
You can get a
presentation.
booklet to-
These things, I did pretty
Maria
good
has a
last time.
Okay, I'll sit down.
No, this is for you.
How much are
On behalf of the Diablo Numismatic Society, we'd like to present.
For $10 for how many?
Thank you for.
Thank
You
you.
built 20 of these?
Quick,